All right. We are live with Survivor Calgary, Brains versus Brawn versus Belligerents recap for our third episode, Emotional Damage. Kendall, how are you doing?
I'm good. I wish I had my buff on because I had it last week. Yeah, but
Yeah, I'm just keeping
looks
it by the
great.
computer now. You inspired me last week to put it on.
Amazing. Looks great. How are you, Cole?
I'm good. Yeah. What'd you think of this app?
It was fun. It was good. I mean, I think they're all fun. I think, yeah. But it was a good time. I had some good flashbacks um, to recording Conrad from season 2, and so some of the things that played out in the previous season. Some flashbacks to that. But yeah, it was a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. Spoilers here. Spoiler warning here. Stop watching if you care about or haven't watched episode 3 yet. Conrad unfortunately does meet a similar fate that he does in season 2, blindsided before the merge. This time before the swap. Pretty rough fate for him, all things considered. I know I was hoping that Conrad would be able to push the game a little bit further this time around. He has some good ideas, and he has kind of this idea of how the season's going to go. We'll see where that goes later on. But let's start talking about the episode. And we'll start like we did last week from the start, where we follow that Braun tribe after their tribal council, after they vote out Greg, and kind of the reaction to that, Connell being left out of the vote. What do you have to say about the Braun tribe so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the players so far on the Brawn tribe feel like they could be subs or like understudies for belligerents. Like, there's a lot of belligerent vibes here. I think that Connell is such an interesting player. Like, he's just so chaotic, and it doesn't always seem like there's a lot of strategy. Like, not that there's not. I just like can't wrap my head around what the strategy is. Anyways, lots of chaos. It was interesting to see some of the fractures and some of the ways that the social dynamics are playing out with like Connell as the leader that is
Yeah, I
being
think
yeah.
Connell's an interesting person to watch out there because he's almost just as focused as being this like leader personality as he is with being like a smart and competent player in the game. Like, he wants to be this like over the top persona who's voting people out, blindsiding people and rubbing in their face.
Mm-hmm.
um where, like, I think even on this last vote, he's talking to Sid and he's like, yeah, I think we've got this boys pact going, but I'll let you know if it's your name coming up. I'm like, dude, you just got blindsided at the last vote and a guy just got voted out. I don't think there's a guys pact going on.
For sure. Yeah. And like, even to say, and then like in the next breath to say, and I think Chelsea will be the next one. Like to acknowledge the like gender dynamics on the team, and then be like, by the way, you're who I think is probably your closest ally. I think she's the next to go.
Yeah, I think she's going probably next. I know she
Yeah.
like let you in on what was going on, but no, that's fine. Too bad. Whatever.
For sure. But
Um,
it was so great to have that little moment when Sydney like was the little video of Connell with the tree and the fire to
I
get
mean,
a
like,
bit of a
even
glimpse.
even stuff like that, and we saw it last week with Greg, where Greg mentioned that one thing to Greg. Where Greg mentioned that one thing to Shervin on night
Yeah,
one, where he was like, "Oh yeah, I don't like your job, whatever." That had like a big impact on him getting voted out. And now
totally.
you see Connell with the tree, and Sid doesn't want to work with him anymore because of that. Like, these small interpersonal things
Yeah.
that have really no impact on the game whatsoever can
Yeah.
kind of push you to make these decisions or push you to make these alliances to get people out.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think on Survivor, like, I think we see that amplified even more because, like, people, if Connell was putting a giant tree in the fire and that had like actual implications for people's ability to like stay warm and eat food, then, that would be, I think, a totally reasonable basis
It is
to
a
kind
little
of
bit
like,
lower stakes out there in Whitebrist. You can get fed
absolutely,
even if the fire isn't perfect one night.
for
Or
sure.
and honestly, everyone who goes out there is great. It's
Yeah.
really easy to get along with most of those people. So even small things can be like, oh, I prefer this person over you just because of this one tiny thing that you said to me this one time.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. And everyone's pals and they want to, want to be getting along. But so that also means though, that you're going to be on high alert for those.
And you have to vote someone out. So
absolutely.
Sure. Moving on, we can talk about the Brains tribe a little bit. We see a lot of idol hunting on the Brain side, including a successful idol hunt. Second or third, I guess, idol of the game found. Second of these expiring idols found. And Keegan finds it and shares it with Katie. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this might have been the best possible person for Keegan to have been with when he found the idol. Like if he was going to find it with someone, Katie feels like the right person for him to have found it with. I think because as we see in Keegan's confessional, like her kind of leadership role, I think has taken a bit of the focus off of Keegan as the leader. And so I think,
not to be like, I'm actually here or anything. Keegan didn't actually find it with her. He just shared it with her. He found it on his own and was just like, oh, hey, by the way, I found the idol.
I don't think I realized that. I thought that they were like idol hunting together.
They were? Keegan had already found it and told
him. Okay. Well, then that I feel like maybe that's a bit of I don't know. I guess maybe though, because again, I think that Keegan's relationship with Katie is going to be really important. Like for easing some of the focus on him as the like leader of the tribe, which
there's so much focus on these captains in this first part of the game for sure. And Keegan even more so. You already saw the Braun tribe talk about him in episode 1 as like, yeah, Keegan, we need to get him out of the game ASAP, along with Kristen, who's like targeting Katie on this side. Some interesting dynamics there. Like you mentioned, it's weird that Keegan would be like idol hunting when he's already found it. And we see Willow bring that up too, where it's like, I think someone's found this, but we're just going to keep looking, I guess.
Yeah, she's got some good intuition. And I'm curious to see how that helps her moving forward. Yeah.
When you were out there in season 2, Kendal, did you see any wildlife like the cows that Keegan and Katie stumbled across?
No, I don't. Okay, well, I think that there were cows coming down the like big main road.
Yes. When we were doing like a tribal council, they were just on their way. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, but not like they weren't nearly as close or like as involved. Yeah, they weren't nearly as close as they were for them, which was cool. Cows are cool.
The other thing I do want to point out before we move on from the Brains tribe and this idol. This idol is very important for one very historical reason, which is Keegan is now the third of 3 Parker brothers who have played in Survivor Calgary to have found an idol. So all 3 of us have now found an idol, which is an important stat to remember.
Yeah, finally living up to the Parker brother name.
We'll see if he's able to do it in the season. We'll see if he's able to eclipse Jackson and I. I know that was a rough talking point for him at the end of season 2. He had the worst placement of the 3 of us. So we'll see if he can push past that 6th place bar I set earlier.
Very high bar, Cole.
Thank you. There were fewer players in our season, and I don't think I went to that many tribal councils, but that's fine. Yeah. We'll now talk about the Belligerents tribe, this 3rd tribe who does eventually end up going to tribal council. They have a little bit of a discussion before the challenge about kind of trying to play this middle between Brain and Braun. They see themselves kind of as this third party that can hopefully team up with one of these 2 teams. And Conrad seems to be pushing the idea of wanting to team up with Brains. What are your thoughts on this kind of strategy going into a swap or into a merge?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they don't know when the swap or the merge is coming. And so I guess it's good to be aware of it. But I think, I don't know, it feels a little early to me. And I think that like it...
I mean, we did see the swap as next step.
It is, but I think like for that, like they don't know that it's coming. And I think that it is interesting that they would kind of make a choice to team up with Brains and like are viewing Braun as the team to beat, right? Like I think, yeah. And I think especially given how we saw in the intro of the episode, like the chaos that is, and the kind of fracturing that's happening with Braun. Yeah, it feels like an interesting choice to say that that's the team to beat.
Definitely. So after that, we do see Keegan kind of talk a little bit about how, I know this challenge coming up after he gets the tree mail. I do want to quickly shout out that Malone, who will be joining us shortly with Conrad, also knew what this challenge was, but the footage was unfortunately lost. So we did have two of the teams going into this challenge entirely prepared on what it would look like, what would happen in it, with the exception of maybe some twists that we threw in. And for one team, worked out really great. They won the whole thing. For the other team, maybe some distractions, some miscommunications, unfortunately made it so that they were unable to win this challenge. For you, how much do you think that this challenge is luck versus skill? It's essentially a game of Go Fish.
I think that it is a lot of a lot of hearing and listening and paying attention. And I think that there's a lot of memory involved. Like, to me, I think it's more and less like not Go Fit. What's the other game where you're trying to remember? I don't know, but like making pairs and you have like cards that are all down on the, but they're all down on the table and you're trying to remember where they are. It's like a whole different. Anyways, I will think about it. We'll try and remember, but like. I think that it's more, to me, it feels more like it's a memory game and like an association game. And so I think, clearly brains pulled forward well. I don't know how much luck has to do. I don't know. Do you think that there's a lot of luck? Yeah, match.
I was wondering if it's match 2, which
that sounds right. Yes, yeah. Like I somewhere in between Guess Who and Go Fish, right? Like, yeah. But so like, I don't know, Cole. Do you think that there's? I think that there's relatively little luck at play here.
I think there's certainly some luck, as there is in every aspect of Survivor, in every aspect of these challenges. I think luck does play a part, but I do think it is maybe more skill-based than a lot of people think on first appearance. I do think it is easy to throw people off their game, which we certainly see on the belligerent side with Bomi kind of scream whispering at Malone for this entire challenge. Bomi in general, we can talk about the egg here as well, going absolutely ham on the egg, trying to eke out every single advantage you can. What are your thoughts so far on what's kind of going on the edge and how they participated in this challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I love that they're integrated into the main challenges and that there's like ways to participate and like shape the game beyond like the like line that divides the border between the edge and the main game is a little bit blurrier, I think, this season than it has been in the past. And I think that that's really cool.
It makes that social game even more important too, where all of a sudden you're not just worried about the jury, you're also worried about these people and how they see you and how that might impact with your game, with what advantages they send back in, how they're going to impact you in these challenges, whether they're going to go so hard chasing you with a dodgeball you have to run all the way back. Like there's a number of things that can impact it. Circling back to the challenge, we did see 3 players here get iced and consequently get an idle clue right off the bat. I do want to talk about a little bit about how these players approached this idle clue, but quickly I do want to share 2 facts with you.
Okay.
1, Katie was smart enough to realize that the bulge in the box meant that there was something different in there compared to everyone else, and also figured out that this meant everyone else who had a bulge in their box and who got iced had the clue. Very good by her. She was unfortunately not smart enough to realize that the clue that she got was the idol that Keegan had showed her just before this challenge, which is unfortunate. I do also want to share with you that the area where Kayla was looking, where we see her kind of looking at these shotgun shells and looking at this piece of wood, wondering if it might be an idol, is actually the precise location where Malone found the expiring idol in the last episode. So she was so close, but unfortunately just a little bit of mistiming.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. So neither of the idols that Katie or Kayla would be looking for are actually up for grabs.
Not up for grabs anymore. Braun Tribe still is. And I do kind of want to talk about how Connell approaches this. We talked about him already. What are your thoughts on how Connell kind of shared this information first with Eric, who's seemingly more and more kind of the center of this Braun Tribe, and then with the rest of the tribe as a whole?
Yeah, my notes just have like my guy in all caps with a bunch of question marks for this section. I really, I really don't know that if it were me, that this is how I would go about this. I think that, like, you know, I'm not sure if Connell is maybe not aware that he can just lie and tell people that he's bringing it to them from the, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why he's choosing to share with people that he has already been looking. And this idea that it's like,
But now I'm a team player because I'm
yeah,
telling you now it's fine.
for sure. Like, I don't understand how he's not seeing that that will be read as him not being a team player and already, right? That he started off not like with the secret that he's now offering up to them. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like, he didn't have to say that. He could just lie. I'm not sure like why he didn't do that. But yeah, it feels a little strange, feels a little funny. I think it's a good call for him to like bring other people in to look for it if he's not able
I
to
don't
find
think
it.
bringing the entire tribe in to look for it is maybe the right idea, especially if you're looking at targeting Chelsea.
Yeah.
Telling her where this idol clue might lead her to the idol is probably not the
Absolutely.
best idea for your game moving forward.
Well, and I wonder, like, did Connell tell Eric that he was going to tell the whole tribe before? Like, was there, because it was then Eric, like,
There was. I didn't see any footage of it, but we did lose a bit of footage. I do quickly want to touch on that. In the Edge challenge, you might notice that we only included footage for Bomi and Justine hiding the idol, and then Neil chasing after it. Unfortunately, the footage of Greg doing the same was lost, I think. So was unable to put that in. Bomi was the winner of that challenge, and did get that advantage that he sent back to Sid as this additional idol clue. This is for a separate idol, which I will tell you ahead of time was never found. It was available for a very brief period of time at this coming swap challenge, and it was not found in time before it went to a different part of the game, which we will see later on. What did you think of the Edge challenge?
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I mean, I think that I put in the chat during the premiere of the episode, like, I think Neil is doing such an awesome job as not the what's the
Edge legend.
Edge legend. Yes, I think
mother.
Yes, has been,
yes.
yes, is doing Flo the edgelord very proud. I think has a really has a really good like spirit and you know, just bringing a lot of good vibes to the challenge and like taking it well. Yeah, I think that I don't know how anybody would have found the idol that
no, certainly not.
Yeah, so I think he deserved to win. I thought it was funny that he was like asking if he actually had to give the hint to somebody. I thought that it's that is a player who is thinking ahead and knows what the option.
That is a player who knows what they want out of this game, and that is for them to get back in, for everyone else to be burned to the ground.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love a good revenge storyline. So
before we move on to talk about the tribe that did lose this challenge, belligerents, and kind of their dynamics going into this vote, I do really quickly want to touch on this brain tribe again, talking about, oh, hey, there might be this car alliance, which does come up a little bit later with Willow, Haley, Craig, and Kayla as they all drove up together. We don't really see it form on the belligerents tribe. Kayla, Craig, and Haley are kind of playing together, but not more than like Malone is part of these conversations. Conrad at this point is part of these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the social dynamics on this team leading up to the tribal was super interesting. I think that it was really quite fascinating to see how Malone, I think, really like influenced the conversations that were happening about social dynamics in a way that didn't put him in the spotlight as like schemy or bad mouthing other players necessarily. So yeah, it was
us behind the scenes who know he's like lying about who has the idol and trying to flip things just so that he can keep the tribe together. It's like very obvious to us, this influence that he's having on the game, but to the players, it's maybe a bit less clear about who's kind of pushing the vote which way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was really very very skillful influence of the conversations that were happening leading up to tribal, and like really interesting way of it was interesting how like the conversation shifted as we got closer and closer to tribal, away from like the Car Alliance, away from even like the focus away from Kayla, really towards Conrad. It was a really interesting progression.
Let's bring Malone and Conrad in here to kind of talk through this vote. Malone, Conrad, welcome to the stream. Conrad, we'll start with you. How are you feeling after this episode?
I mean, it's never good to watch yourself get voted out, and it's even less good to watch, you know, someone who you're in alliance with, you know, plot and throw you under the bus like that. Not only in turning the tribe on you, but also lying to them about having all the idols. Certainly, until the idols came out, I certainly was like, wait, what the heck just happened? And then I put it back together. So, you know, it is what it is.
Malone, let's kind of talk about this lie here about the idol. I think people think about Survivor as this game of lying. But I think you also need to be able to tell good lies. And what's really impressive to me about this lie is you're like, oh, hey, Conrad ran up first. I can A, throw him under the bus for that, and B, set up a better lie in the future because he's gone. He might have had the idol. We blindsided him. No one's worried about the idol that I have.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, sorry. But it was just, there was a few things that kind of led into it. Like you were a very Conrad was a very easy scapegoat, being the first to run to where we ended up. I'm assuming the footage we lost, but we did actually all go as a team, belligerents, after the challenge to go see if we could find that idol, and we did see the little bit of tape I left from tearing it out underneath the table. And it was at that point that I whispered to Craig, like, I have it.
So that's where you ended up telling T-Daddy, the only person who knew about your idol, that's kind of who had the idol.
Yeah.
Did you tell Craig at any point your plan to like get rid of Conrad so that you could keep your idol more secret, or was that not a part of the conversation at all?
I don't remember. I'm assuming I probably did. I think I tried to not keep any secrets with Craig early on in those first couple tribal councils. But there was just kind of like I could kind of sense the winds changing anyways. And I don't think everyone was super in to vote Kayla off. Having, seeing that the will was there, and then also having the added benefits of this is going to completely remove the idol from the conversation, hopefully going forward. It just was too easy to just throw Conrad completely, entirely, directly under the bus.
Now, I do one more question for you, Malone, before we kind of move this back to an open forum. And Conrad, I want to hear your input on this as well. In episode 1, we did see the formation of, as of now, the only named alliance of the game, the Nicotine Alliance. What kind of caused that relationship to fracture, if anything, or did it just kind of was it just kind of a natural drift, or you got closer to other people?
I would like to hear this answer because I certainly do not.
It was kind of a couple things, I guess. Craig and I really hit it off immediately. I'd say like even before the idea of even sending a vote towards Conrad was, I would say Craig was still my number one. But then in between, and it's kind of like we were talking about earlier with like the tree and the lawyer comment from Greg. It's just one of those small things. Coming back from voting out Justine in the first tribal, Haley just like offhandedly just like said like a Patti Smith lyric. And I don't know if anyone knows this about me, but if there's one thing I'm a bigger fan of than Survivor, it's Patti Smith. I was in her top 0.01% of listeners on Spotify last year. Enormous Patti Smith fan. And so when she dropped
the fact
that
you could say that lyric.
When she dropped that, it was like, oh, we're friends now. And so that was kind of
those two relationships kind of became more important than that previous relationship that you had kind of created with Conrad.
Yeah.
Conrad, did you feel like you were getting closer than Malone to anyone else on the tribe at this point?
I definitely had, based off of where we were going in the tribe. So we were trying, for me, the priority was always strong tribe, try not to go to tribal council. And then second to that was, okay, who's got knives out in the dark for me? And so immediately coming out of the Justine vote, seeing one vote break the other way, figuring out that it was probably Kayla, that was something where I said, okay, well, Kayla is now a threat to me. And also she's not playing for the tribe. She wasn't thinking about where we were going in ahead, at least in conversations that we were having as a group that we were having together. And I still made an effort to talk to her, try to be like, hey, like, what are you thinking about? What's your game plan? And so for me, I felt that I was, and maybe it was complacency. I felt solid with Craig. I felt solid with Malone. Haley, you saw in the episode, I was a little trepidatious about, but I felt that we had 3 votes. So even if we ran into some trouble, at least I'm sitting with the majority of the voting power in the tribe at the time.
How much of like a tribe talking point was it Kayla going to look for these like idols when really she was just going to the bathroom or doing drugs? Either one of you can answer this.
Quite a bit, I feel like. She was noticeably absent for a lot of the discussion. And especially knowing that she was the one that had the idol clue, it just seemed like, and that she might be nervous that she's on the block because she was on the other side of the vote. It seemed like, well, she's got to be looking for an idol. And so, I mean, if anyone's not around, you have to just say,
you have to assume, especially when they're gone for that long and you can't reach them and they show up 2 minutes before the vote. Yeah, I totally get it. We do go. Sorry, go ahead, Conrad.
It's probably, I think with Justine, like Justine was the last person to regroup after the first time we went to tribal. And that was just one of the things. We're like, hey, what did everyone do at the challenge? I got a ball or someone set up a slingshot. Oh, did Justine do anything? Not necessarily. And it's not our fault. Like, it was obviously like a very scattered challenge, but like when you're making snap decisions like that, being last to, tell your side of the story is often quite fatal.
Certainly. Yeah, no, I think a lot of the time in Survivor, you kind of see whoever is the last name said, that's the person who goes home. I imagine that was kind of the case for this vote, where for most of the time it was Kayla, and kind of in the last 5 to 10 minutes, it switched to Conrad before he was taken out. Kendal, and I'll pose this question to the audience as well, so you can post a comment in the YouTube chat. We'll bring it up. Kendal, do you have any questions for Malone or Conrad?
I do, actually. We saw when Haley was casting her vote that she mentioned a comment at the last minute that Conrad made about like a boys' alliance on the tribe. And, we saw that Malone, in a previous conversation with Haley, was trying to assure her that it wasn't there wasn't boys' alliance being formed. So Conrad, what was what's your recollection of how that boys group comment played out, and what influence do you think that had on her vote?
I saw the edit on that. I personally don't think it was something that I had been like, yeah, it's going to be the guys, but kind of how we talked through kind of the voting pattern of, tribe swap one was, okay, it's Justine. We're aligned as, we should be aligned as a tribe. Oh, there's a break vote. That break vote happened to be Kayla. I had conversations with Haley at that time, and I said straight to the camera, I feel like Haley is likely to flip. I don't actually think she's on side to do this. And it wasn't anything about gender. It was about, like, for me, I felt paranoid with knives in the dark. If you're not, 100% in camp, then I'm going to not feel great about it, because I've already seen that I've got a target on my back walking in. So if it was Malone or Craig in that same boat, I think that would be where I would also feel, uncomfortable. I don't think that it had anything to do with, who she was. It was rather what she did and how she talked.
Yeah, I can vouch for Conrad on that one. like it was never the alliance between Conrad, Craig, and I was never yeah, the guys are gonna stick together. But when we made we just happened to have that first conversation, and then at one point Conrad said like just like to abbreviate the conversation, basically said like, oh, like the guys will do this and whatever. And I maybe leaned into that a little bit when talking to Haley. And
so just more of your subtle manipulation.
Yeah, this is one that I feel bad. Conrad actually, we talked during the weekend actually about it, to like go over it just to make sure, like, and I talked to Haley afterwards as well. But yeah, and I was very conscientious that regardless of what the reasons for voting for whoever was, I was conscientious that, I didn't want to be the guy that just picked off all the women on their tribe.
I think after season 2, there was a lot of consciousness among a lot of the cast of, hey, let's not do this whole gender thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
not for any like social reasons. I just don't want to be derivative,
Yeah, exactly. We do. Kendall, do you have any other questions?
No, let's do Keegan's. If we have time, I might have another one.
That's great.
Yeah, Keegan, go for it.
So we do have a question from Keegan, Brains tribe captain, in the chat here. For Malone, how much did the idol excuse play into your decision versus relationships / the tides shifting?
I would say, regardless of the idol situation, I think the tides would have shifted anyways. I would say that's probably more the dominant factor. It was very convenient and very motivating for me to include the idol stuff in. But I think the writing was already on the wall. People were already kind of looking at Conrad. And that would be, I think, what really drove the vote versus me saying Conrad has the idol kind of thing.
Makes sense. Just a real quick question, and I don't want to harp on your gameplay or anything here, Conrad. There was a certain point when the 4 of you were talking, basically the 4 of you minus Kayla, you, Malone, Craig, and Haley, where you're like, yeah, if she does find the idol, we'll just split the votes to tie it on someone else. Was there like the forethought of like, oh, hey, everyone else is already here. Who are we going to split the vote on? Like, what are we going to tell people right now if that question comes up?
No, it was definitely just kind of like I think, and then this is like the same issue I ran into, I think, last season as well, was I felt secure enough in my own social position at the tribe that I was starting to think post-merge. I was starting to think, in this case, post-swap. What do we need to do next? How do we as Bellinis survive? In the previous case, how did we as Yam survive? And so there was a sense of complacency behind, yeah, okay, I think we're okay here. We need to, like, someone's going to go out. Didn't think it was going to be me. We should figure out how we are going to like work best with the Brain Tribe. I'd already talked to Katie kind of during the challenge and a little bit after. And that's what my brain was.
No cross-tribe communication. I do have one more question for you, Conrad, before we finish up here. How do you feel like your return went? Do you feel like you learned something from your first time around? Do you feel regretful about not bringing in more from your first time? Talk to kind of this experience of returning, coming back, and kind of falling in the same place that you did the time before.
Well, and I was just going to say too, my question for Conrad was similar, because I was having, like, when the episode where Conrad got eliminated season 2 was like right before that tribal, as a production member, I was like following Conrad through conversations that you were having with your tribe. So I was with you right up until the tribal. And so I was like shocked when you got voted out in season 2 when it was happening. Anyways, so yeah, curious about reflections from past season that you brought into this one.
Are we able to flash up my Chiron?
We can't, but I do know that it is jaded and learned nothing off the top of my head.
And so I don't think that's changed. Definitely, like, still very jaded, and clearly like the same mistake that got me out in 2, now 3, was definitely just repeated almost the same way, where I thought that I was in with a group and then it was co-opted and turned, not necessarily by Megan this time, but by an ally. But still, it was just getting complacent, thinking too far ahead, and assuming that I was safe. And that's really just super fatal in this game. For the rest of the game, I'm not going to talk about it because it hasn't aired. But I think
the edge is certainly coming. Yeah,
the edge is coming, and all I will say.
Malone and Conrad, do you have anything else you want to say before Kendall and I wrap things up?
I'd have a page of notes, but we'll save that for the 5-hour deep dive after the season ends.
Sounds good.
I just did want to say that I really had no idea about Bomi having an idol clue to send directly after the challenge where I completely iced him out. If I had just been like, look at my box, Bomi, I could have had 3 idols.
And maybe we would have done better at that challenge too.
Yeah, you should have just listened to him.
A bone to pick. I said this in the chat during the episode, but you and Kayla talking about Malone was the first one out and he didn't get any. I got 2 matches. 2 matches in the game, which is the same amount you did. And I
just wanted Kayla at that time to feel comfortable.
I don't think you have ground to stand on when you're complaining about subtly manipulating a vote towards you. Conrad, do you have anything to say before we close things out here?
I mean, it was a lot of fun. I think there's still a lot more content to come, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
Certainly. Thank you both for joining us here. Kendall. Oh, hold on. I removed Kendall and kept Malone. Kendall.
Yes.
Before we get into kind of the closing stuff here, I do have 2 things I want to talk about with you. Firstly, we have a swap coming next episode based on our next time on Survivor Calgary. Anything you're kind of anticipating with this swap? Any kind of dynamics that you want to see play out?
I would like to see the complete dissolution of the Braun tribe. Like, not dissolution of the tribe, but I would love to see that chaos pushed into even more chaos. So whatever happens there, the part of me that loves reality TV would love to see. I can
certainly promise you chaos with these swap episodes.
Amazing.
I promise you that much.
Yes, I don't want to see unity there, and it feels like we're right on the edge of seeing some shit happen there. So I'm excited for that. But I don't really know what to expect. I'm a blank slate. I'm just keen to see how it goes.
All right, and then the main event here. Mm-hmm. Player of the week, Kendall.
Okay.
You can bestow your crown to yet another player. Before we get into your choice, because your choice is the official choice, I do have some shortlist candidates.
Okay.
That I would like to bring to you.
Yeah.
First, I would like to bring up Keegan as a potential shortlist candidate for being able to be one of these captains. The only captain currently at this point who has found himself at the center of his tribe. In addition to finding an idol. Very impressive. Mm-hmm. Secondly, as a player of the week candidate, I would like to bring up Malone once again, subtly manipulating the vote, finding himself in a majority, making sure everyone on the tribe is aligned. Again, very impressive, impeccable gameplay from him so far. We'll see if he can keep it up. And my third shortlist candidate that I would like to bring up is maybe a little bit unconventional, but we did talk about him a little bit earlier. Bomi is clearly killing it on the edge. Has not let getting voted out first take any sort of impact in how he's approaching the game. So I'd like to hear kind of your input on who's the star of this episode.
Love the short list. I have no notes on that short list. I think if I could pick 3, those are definitely the top 3.
But you pick one.
Yes, and I'm going to. And I do think I'm glad that we or that you brought up Malone's gameplay. I think I was again very impressed by the end of the episode around just the ability to. I feel like I couldn't lie in that convincing of a way, that compelling of a way, and get away with it in the way that he did. So I think that was great. But I do my player of the week was Keegan. I think that it was not as overtly, explicitly as incredible of an episode for him. But I think the fact that he is the only captain of the, like you said, the only captain of a tribe at this point who is not in either has not been voted out or is like in a really, really precarious spot with his tribe, I think is speaks a lot to his skill as a player and as a captain and his like understanding of the game. And I think, you know, him finding the idol was, you know, it was a good episode for him. So Keegan is the player of the week. And this has nothing at all to do with the fact that Keegan and I had COVID together and were isolation buddies.
I think it does. I think there's a little bit of voter fatigue as well.
I'm not biased.
I would have given it to Malone, but that doesn't matter what I think. Congratulations to Keegan for player of the week. Very nicely done. Good job. Kendal, anything you want to say before we wrap things up here for our EP3 recap?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Cole. Anything from you?
No, I guess tune in on Sunday, which would be April 9th for our next episode, the swap. I believe the link is already up. It's called To Be a Hot Dog. And right after the episode, Kendal and I will be discussing with the latest boot and one other person who's kind of key to that episode, just like we did here. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll be back on Sunday. Peace.
Cool. See ya.